I'm going to show you how I turn this into this. Hey guys, my name's Kenan. I'm starting a new video series called So You Want to Be a Pop Star, where I show you how I can help turn your musical vision into a reality. So my business manager gave me this sample brief. Let's come take a look at it here.
You can check out the timestamps on the play bar or in the description below to skip ahead to the music production stages you're looking for.
Quick word before we get into this. There's going to be 3 videos at the start of this series here. This one is a little different from the other ones that you'll see in the next couple, because this one actually has melody ideas associated with it at the moment. I'll be playing with you a little bit of those voice memos here right after we get into these words here. So along with those voice memos, our sample client, let's call her Anna Campbell. It's a sample client, so we'll just make up a name, Anna, right? So Anna sent me over this little write-up along with those voice memos where she's basically saying when she was 12 years old, she thought she'd have it all together by 25, married with a kid on the way, big, beautiful house, thriving career. She has none of those. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. All she has a mountain of student loans, an old apartment that always smells like eggs, very specific. I don't know. We'll see if we'll throw that in there in a little bit. And a non-existent love life. I'm just getting like the sort of feeling of getting left behind kind of narrative here, which will definitely incorporate into the song here as we'll get into that part. Now, in addition to this write-up, she sent over some voice memos as well as some reference tracks that we'll be using as inspiration for the backing track or the instrumental or even the melody and the words. Now, I won't share those with you for this song, but feel free to leave in the comments what you think they are. Alright, let's get into how I wrote this song. So if you take a look here at this neatly organized Google Doc that I have written up, I made a little word list here of various synonyms, various keywords that I wanted to use for this song. I came up with 10 words that sort of just popped into my head right after reading that brief, right after I kind of had a rough idea of like the direction that they wanted to go in, especially after hearing the reference tracks and the voice memos. So you can take a look at the word list right here. I'll show it on screen. And so from that, I kind of had a rough idea of how I wanted to make the song flow a little bit. I think I'm going to make the chorus the part that is sort of like a bit of a cry for help there, moving towards that angsty direction that I think I'm pretty good at. So for this first verse, I just want to paint a picture here, just kind of set the stage, really focusing a little bit on imagery here. As we read through these words, you can see that I'm really trying to sort of capture that scene that many of us kind of go through where you kind of don't want to get up in the morning. You kind of just like, what's the point of getting up? I'm just like nobody, you know what I mean? I'm just like going through another day with the same things on my mind. As we get into the pre-chorus, we're still kind of using some of that imagery here, but we're kind of leaning ourselves towards a little bit of that desperation that I'm going to start to kind of capture in that chorus. So when we see here in this pre-chorus, we're going to be building up here in the instrumental here. Right now I'm thinking about how the instrumental is going to go. Of course, this is going to start to do a bit of a lift. Pre-chorus is not going to be as long as the verse. Pre-chorus is really going to act like it's setting up the chorus. It's pre-chorus, right? It's going to be giving a little bit of a pretext to the chorus there. You can see here in the pre-chorus that I've used one of the words here in the whole, you know, the debt and all that. They mentioned in the brief that they have a mountain of student loans. I didn't really want to be super on the nose talking about that, so I just said, you know, a general word for debt in the whole. And I think that really lends itself to a nice little ending line on that pre-chorus that takes us into the chorus. So let's move ahead into the chorus here. Very much a cue from the reference tracks that I was given. Starting on beat 1 of that chorus with a very loud kind of call, hey, right? I think that catches your attention really nicely. It is very hooky. So in this chorus, I'm still trying to come up with some imagery here. I wanted to think of like some kind of metaphor for what that experience feels like. The experience of all your peers are sort of leaving you and you're kind of lagging behind. You don't really know what's happening. It seems like everyone else is getting ahead and you're not. I'm sort of putting a little bit of my own self into this song here, but hey, that's what I do as a songwriter. And sort of drawing from those experiences and from what they're talking about here in the brief, I'm thinking, what does it feel like? It feels a little bit like you're in a cyclone, almost. Very parody, right? Where we kind of fell off the bow of a ship and getting sucked into this cyclone. We just can't get out. We don't know what's happening. We thought it would be a lot easier. We thought it would be not so bad. But when you're in it, you're just like, what's going on? I'm lost. So I'm using these sort of metaphors of I'm deserted. I'm lost at sea. I don't know where I am. Let's move into the verse 2. We're kind of like using that same melody, but we're kind of shifting focus a little bit here because we don't want verse 1 and verse 2 to be like the same thing, but at the same time, we don't want it to be like a travel log where we're kind of like, verse 1, oh, I did this, and then verse 2, I did this. We still want there to be a thread a little bit. Verse 1 is sort of like, hey, this is how I am right now. Verse 2 is sort of past and then future. It's a very rough kind of outline there, but you can kind of think of it in that way, right? Verse 2 is sort of that past and future. The first half of verse 2, right? We're just like looking back. Second half of verse 2, we're kind of looking a little bit at the present and the future. That takes us right into that pre-chorus of how that sort of jealousy affects this person, right? Anna Campbell, this made-up person. And again, using that imagery, that sort of like sensory stuff. It's really hard to breathe, clenching your teeth. I mean, that's just straight up experiences of like how all that can fuel somebody's predisposition to anxiety. Now after that, I decided, in this song, this is going to be a short song, especially, using the references. The songs don't have bridges. A lot of songs these days don't have bridges in the traditional sense, especially like what's on the radio. We're sort of trending away from the 3.5 minute single to the sort of 2.5 to 3 minute single these days. So that means we're kind of leaving out bridges now. And that's something that I'll pay attention to with my clients. When they give me the brief and when they give me the reference tracks, I'll listen to the reference track and figure out what the structure is, what the formula is that they're using, and kind of base my song on top of that. My song that I write for the client, of course. It won't be mine. I wrote it, but we'll talk about that. So we're wrapping up this song. It's just going to be chorus out. But other than that, that's the song. Let's get into some of the production stuff here. So based on the reference tracks, I was hearing sort of that pop rock vibe, the pop rock specifically that's getting a little bit more popular these days, where it isn't so much like an emphasis on the distorted kind of guitar. I mean, there is still, but it's like we're not trying to create an abrasive sound. What we're trying to create is more of like an upbeat, angsty, but smooth sort of texture. So think Olivia Rodrigo. So for the production, I'm choosing this particular set of instruments. I'm choosing electric guitar, electric bass, drum kit, little bit of synths, but not too many. So it's primarily going to be a very rock ensemble is what we'll call it. That guitar, bass, and drums sort of trio setup. Little bit of keys in the background, and I'll show you a little bit of like what went into a little bit of that in a minute. So I've got my guitar here. This is the guitar that I used to record this one. So nice solid guitar, isn't it? So when you listen to the voice memo, this person already has a chord progression in mind, so I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to that chord progression there. Chord progression is D minor, B flat, F, and A. So we've got that 5 chord of the minor dominant. Now, one of my favorite voicings for guitar when it comes to pop music is that sort of spread 10th. So it's a third, but we've blown it up. And I use that same 10th voicing for the 4 chord sequence in that beginning part. And I'm just really adding a lot of that muting, chukka chukka, because that's sort of where some of the angstiness comes from in sort of that beginning song. And again, sort of the pop clave, as people have taken to start calling it, I don't know if that's the name of it, but that 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 is in so much pop music these days that I've heard it in the reference tracks too. I wanted to include it. Now there's infinitely more guitars on this track. You can hear it as I show you the final product here, and when you go listen to it with the link in the description to the final track. But we don't have time for all of that. I played a little bit of the electric bass here as we got into the rest of the track. Fills out that low end. The drums, I was using a Superior Drummer 3 to get my drum tones there. Now, one cool thing that I'm really proud of in this song is at the end of that chorus, the part where it goes, "Where did I go wrong?" I'll play a little snippet of it here. Where did There's a cool little synth line that's underneath. It's really prominent at the end, but you do hear it the first time around that comes sort of like midway near the end of the song. Play a little snippet of that isolated here because I think it's a really cool, what we call a counter line. Now we're going to see some more cool counterlines in future videos, but for this one, it's a very subtle. It's a very wordy song. Not really a lot of room for counter melody here. We'll see that a little bit more later in the other songs where there's a lot more space. But here in this part, this is where the space is in this little, I don't know what you'd call it, post-chorus. And this post-chorus part is so spacey, right? Vocals have a little bit more reverb on there. So to fill in that space, that cool line gets inserted. It's awesome, isn't it? That's production taken care of. Let's move on to the demos and revisions. This is the stage that I like the most because I'm done making the song. And also I get to sing a little bit. So the way that I usually make demos is I'll make literally a demonstration of how to sing the song with my own voice. I'll sing it in a demo voice. I'll play a little bit of what my demo sounds like for this song. Could be better, right? It's a demo after all. Anyway, I send this off to the singer, they learn it, and come back to me with their final vocals. But before we do that, this is also a time where we can revise some stuff. This stage is, after all, called the demos and revisions stage, right? So what do I mean by revisions? This is the time where you can tell me what you like about the song flow, what you like about the lyrics. Although for the lyrics, we could have actually done that back on the songwriting stage. But anyway, this is your chance to tell me like some production stuff. Like, I had this idea for like an instrument in the track. Can we add that? Or I had this idea for the form of it. Maybe we can move the verse towards the end. Whatever you like, we'll work with. We'll talk about it and we'll see what works, what doesn't. Once we agree upon a final form, final production, the instrumental's like okay, and you're happy with how it sounds, we're gonna be moving on to the recording stage. When we're in the recording phase, now this is really up to you how we want to go about doing this. If you're local to me, the Philly area, I live in South Jersey, but it's basically a suburb of Philadelphia, right? So if you are local to me and you want to make a little bit of a trip to my home studio, we can set up a vocal recording sesh day at my place if you're down. So we'll talk a little bit about that on our one-to-one communication there. If not, however, if you're not local, I have two options for you. So if you have your own like vocal recording setup and you are willing and able to record your own vocals, do everything for just the raw stuff, leave the tuning to me, right? Then that's gonna be really easy, real perfect for us. You just go do it, sing over the instrumental. If you need help with doing that kind of stuff, I can guide you, of course. I can walk you through the process of like, how do you get that set up? I can get you the exact equipment that you might need, even if you don't have it, but you're willing to do it, we can go ahead and do that. What you might need to do to your room to get a nice isolated room sound, which brings me to that second option, which entails me reaching out to a studio on your behalf, getting that set up for you, having somebody in that area kind of being your engineer. So that's the recording phase. Much of the details we'll hash out on our one-to-one conversation, just because a lot of it is dependent on what your situation is, what you have available to you, and your own personal knowledge. Final mixing and mastering. We're coming down to the wire here. This is where I will make the final mix with your vocals that you've sent me. It'll get tuned, it'll get processed, it'll be sitting in the mix. I'll put the proper side chaining on it. Again, we're gonna have some revisions here back and forth and how you like the balance here. Maybe the vocals could come up or be more forward, or maybe the drums could be a little louder, maybe the bass guitar, whatever. Panning is another cool consideration here. Real quick, I want to show you something in this song that relates to the final mixing. So, right, we have here sort of the final vocal here on top. The chorus I have double tracked here. So going back a little bit to the recording aspect, I'll probably ask you to like double track the chorus or something, because we can create this really cool effect here, which I'll show you here in this Logic file here. The two vocals they're not exactly center, so they're not like doubling necessarily. they're not like in each other's way. They're sort of slightly panned a little bit like this way, right? So you can get the sense that they're coming a little bit from two directions, but they're still hitting you in the same kind of way. And it's really, really nice. I love that effect, and I use it all the time. You can hear it in probably these next two songs after this one. Here's a little snippet of that double track vocals.
Maybe get myself together, no, what a shame, 'cause I've only...
Now for the mastering stage, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot here. All I'm really focusing on is just creating that loudness factor that most of our songs on the radio, on social media, on streaming services all feature that sort of loudness. And that's the primary thing that we're going to be worried about here in the mastering stage. Mastering, of course, just entails us preparing it for release, right? Making sure that it hits the target sort of loudness. So in the mastering chain, I'll just usually have an EQ to sort of like get a big like sweeping EQ of the mix, maybe any weird resonances that kind of affect the whole song at the end, especially once instruments are starting to sum together, adding on top of each other certain frequencies that might be a little harsh. This is the opportunity for us to suck it out. What I like to do is just sort of like rough artistic effects that I'm personally partial to. One of my favorite plugins, of course, is Slate Digital's virtual tape machines, but I like to put that right after the EQ and the compressor, just because it is adding a little bit of character to the final mix. It adds a little bit more roughness that is not like distortion, but it is adding a bit of warmth, adding a little pizzazz. Let's talk about the compressor. So what I like to do at the end of the mix is put a little bus compressor on it. All it's doing is really just kind of gluing the mix together. We can call it mix glue, but really what it's doing is sort of very lightly touching the mix a little bit by using the cues from the loudest instruments, like the drums or sort of the big one, to kind of like squash a little bit on the rest of the mix to react a little bit to the kick. And right at the very end of the chain, I've got my favorite limiter. It's a little old. For some people, it's not really what they're looking for, but for me, this is just a really nice sound. I just love the way that it kind of brings a mix up. It adds like, adds like a big amount of oomph, I guess you would call it. This limiter, L2 Ultra Maximizer, is my favorite limiter, and I use it on all my mixes. It's not, of course, the only limiter that I use, but for most applications, I think it does the job for me. This is where that loudness thing that I was talking a little bit about earlier comes in. This is the thing that gives it that loudness there. So we've come to the end here. I'll play you a little bit of a snippet of the song here. It's not too long. You can listen to the full song in the description here, but I just want to show you guys here, for the viewers on this video, a little bit of how this song turned out. Again, you can listen to the full version down in the description below, or you can look at this card right up there.
Falling deeper in the hole. Hey, look at me. I'm deserted, lost at sea. Thought I weathered through the pressure and maybe get myself together. No, what a shame, 'cause I've only got myself to blame. I'm all alone, I should've known now. Tell me, where did I go wrong?
So anyways, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate it if you would give us a like, a thumbs up, subscribe. This is on YouTube, right? If you like what you heard and you want to work with me on something, book an intro call with me on my website, KenanSalazar.com. Or you can email me at K-E-Y, that's what my friends call me, at KenanSalazar.com. So my website, KenanSalazar.com, or you can email me at K-E-Y at KenanSalazar.com. There are going to be some here on the screen, maybe in front of my face. I don't even know. I don't know. I'm probably touching them right now, right? Anyway, I hope I can talk to you soon. Bye.